INDIANA, that's Indiana. Ballin' like Reggie Miller, that's Indiana. I put up on my state, that's Indiana. Watch me rep it in your face, that's Indiana. That's Indiana, that's Indiana.
Hi, I'm Matt from Ludovox, and we are at GenCon 2016 Day 4 on the Grey Fox booth with Asger Johansen. Hi Asger.
Hey, how you doing?
Well, I'm fine. My voice is dying really quickly. How about you?
My voice is also dying because we've been demoing a lot of London Dread, but we're having a really good time and people seem to enjoy the game, so that's really the greatest award, to be here and enjoy the game with people.
So you're from Denmark and you're the designer of London Dread, right?
That is true, together with Snorre Krogh, who's the art director.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what type of game is London Dread?
Well, London Dread is a cooperative, time-based game. So it's a truly cooperative game. So you will play from 2 to 4 players, and you will either win or lose as a team. And it uses a time pressure element. Really, the game can be broken into 3 phases. There is a programming part of the game where you'll be a little stressed out. You'll have 12 minutes to plan what your characters will be doing. Then you go through a story phase where you execute your actions one by one and see how the story unfolds. And then finally there's a final showdown, and that's where you'll do the final roll and you'll either win or lose as a team.
That means that we have real time. How is it calculated?
What do you mean?
So is it always 12 minutes? Do we have a time track?
Yeah, it's a standard setup. The game comes with 3 levels of difficulty, so it's 12 minutes when you play on the normal mode. In the more advanced stories, you play two chapters, so it'll be 12 minutes and execution, then 12 minutes and execution.
So what's the narrative of the game? What's the story of it?
Well, the story is we're in London in the 1890s, so it's a kind of counterfactual variant of an uncanny variant of Victorian London. You know, Sherlock Holmes and cobblestone streets and misty alleyways and cape killers and stuff like that. So we're in a dark variant of Victorian London, and we have 6 characters in the game. That if you take a look at the box, we see the characters over there. So we have our front guy there, Basil Sterling, who is the aristocrat. And all these characters, they have a reason for being in London at this particular time. Well, he's a Londoner, so he lives here, but his father has gone missing, and he's out to understand why. And we have the professor, Howard Milton, over there, he spent years, trying to read this outlandish tome that he brought home from Africa, and all of a sudden it comes together, and he sees that something evil is happening in the city, so he travels into the streets to find out what is going on. We have Jack Murphy, the criminal up there, who's been working for a local crime lord for years, and suddenly some bad things happened, and he's out to get revenge. And one of the bad things that happened was that his wife was killed by this crime lord, so he's out to seek revenge. We have the nun traveling all the way from southern Europe because she's been studying the Bible and she's had some visions, and she also sees that bad things are happening. We have the German soldier Friedrich Stürmer. He was ambushed years back in a gold mine deep down in an African gold mine, and he has tracked the one responsible all the way here to London, also to get revenge. And we have the starlet, who is from Paris, and she used to be the brightest star in the Parisian night sky. And everybody wooed her and wanted to marry her. And finally, a rich guy from Switzerland got to marry her and got her involved in some rituals. So she escaped to her sister in London, only to find her missing. So they all, have a pretty dramatic backstory and a reason for being here in London. And the first story, when that begins, they all receive a letter from a mysterious person, so they're brought together by that letter, and that's from there the story unfolds. And I won't disclose what that story is, but
of course. So does the game play up to 6?
No, it does not. It plays from 2 to 4 people.
Okay.
The thing with co-op games is, as soon as you add an extra person, the number of the relations, multiply. So and we find to be four people is a sweet spot, but it plays really well with 2 and 3 players as well. We have a mechanic in there where you shuffle some ally cards in. So if you play with 3 players, you have the help from some allies, and if you play 2 people, you have even more allies. So to mitigate the fact that you're only 2 or 3 people.
So what are we trying to achieve in the first story at least, and how do we do it?
Yeah, so in each story you will be facing an antagonist, and we set the board up here for the first story, the introduction story. The antagonist in this game is a pagan ritual. So the 4 of you will learn some dark and scary stuff, and that will eventually lead you to this ritual that you will have to perform together. Yeah. So, and this antagonist that will vary from story to story. We also have a story where it will be a random antagonist to allow for more replayability, and so you're trying to overcome this final antagonist in each of the stories, and the strength level of that antagonist will depend on how high this dread track has gone up. If it goes all the way to 50, you're overwhelmed by dread and you lose the game. So you want to try to keep it below 50 and as low as possible. Already when you start to get up here, the antagonist can be very, very powerful and strong. Yeah, I see 45 not good. So
yeah, I was going
to start to cry around 40. You know, people break down.
I was going to ask, like, okay, it's a co-op game. How do we lose?
Yeah, that you can lose in a couple of ways. In each story, you'll try to find a storyline, and you'll be flipping these cards, and many of the cards you'll flip will represent various evil things. You know, there's a black cat terrorizing this area here, or crazed, demented women. I don't know what they're doing here. It looks pretty crazy. You know, bad stuff will happen. But what you'll be looking for is cards that look like these plot cards. When you find a plot card, you take the top card from the story deck and place it on top. So if you don't find all these plot cards out here and investigate these cards, you lose, because the trail runs cold and the investigation, you know, is spoiled, and you lost the game. So you can lose if you don't find all these plot cards, and you can also lose if you go to 50 dread. Yeah. And you can potentially, you can lose if you go to face the antagonist and of course and lose. So
in the ultimate climax, you lose the duel and you lose.
Yes, and we don't have player elimination in the game. Mm-hmm. We have 2 conditions that you can get. You can become injured, or you can become unhinged. You know, you're beginning to go insane. And if you ever have 2 of these conditions, bad things will happen. And if you're in the end game and get the second condition of one of these, doesn't matter, then you'll actually be eliminated. But that's the last 3-5 minutes of the game. So that's, you know, where the game gets really intense.
So what do we do in the player's turn? What actions do we have?
Yeah, we already started showing that a little bit. What you'll be doing in 12 minutes is you will be flipping cards, looking for the storyline. Okay. At the end of the 12 minutes, for each card that remains face down like this, you see the 2 skulls here, okay. The dread track will go up too. Yeah. So we have potentially a lot of dread out here already. So we want to flip the cards. But when we flip the cards, you see even more skulls. So now the cards have become more dangerous. The good thing about it is that we can now deal with them. And the way we deal with them is we go and investigate them. And when we show up with our characters here, you see the characters will have different icons up here, different abilities. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to beat that target number you see right there. For example, here in this case, we have a target number 4. For each icon on your sheet that matches an icon there, you'll bring 1 point. Okay. And you'll notice that all characters have a wild icon, so they are worth 1 point. In this case, the British Lord, he would bring Charm, the pink peacock here, and the Wild, so he would be worth 2 points. And the Soldier would also be worth 2 points, 1 for the Wild and 1 for Courage. Okay. So together the 2 characters could just about manage this cleansing and take care of it. Mm-hmm. And when you take care of that card, it goes into your investigation deck over here, representing that you picked up a clue, you learned something valuable, or simply you were bolstered by your success. So as you complete more and more investigations, this deck will build up. And when you go to an investigation and you're 1 or 2 points short, you can rely on whatever you learned over there. So you may take this entire deck, shuffle it up, and draw the cards, adding the icons to your stat line. Okay. So that's why how you can boost your investigations. But it's a constant balance. You don't want to squander too many cards, taking care of cards. So that's really, when you're really good at the game, you know exactly where that balance is.
How does it scale with fewer players, like with 2 players?
with 2 players, like I said, you shuffle in some allies here. So instead of all these cards being scary cards, you have some cards that are, they will help you. You can ally with this big game hunter or the professor or some characters out there that will help you. But one thing I just need to mention before is these plot cards, because these cards here, they are static in like either you succeed or you don't. So that's a pretty quick like puzzle part of the game. And these cards are more exciting. The plot cards here, you never know really whether you take care of them or not, because what you're doing here is you're bringing icons the same way as you bring icons here, but you gain these dice when you go here. Instead of getting points, you gain dice. So they could be successes like this, or they could also be blanks. So you don't know whether you're going to succeed. And another exciting thing that happens when you go to these is that you get to use your personality decks. This deck represents your character's backstory. So something might come up. Remember, we talked about this guy. He was trapped in a gold mine, being ambushed. So bad things might come up. He might remember that traumatic experience, and be pretty much useless for the investigation. But he could also be so much hell-bent on that getting revenge, and he brings an even more powerful ability, gaining something, or just bring something from his backstory. Normally this guy does not have spirit, but he has a Medal of Honor, so he can even bring a little spirit, or he can even bring charm because he knows how to play the piano in the trenches or something like that. So you see, the story will come to life more. And then you'll roll the dice, and that will give you a tier here, the 3 tiers, 3 different outcomes. And on the backs of these cards we have a little story. So there's a story that will fit the card, and then 3 different stories depending on how well you succeed here. So it's not that the story will branch; it will just go forward in a different direction. Yeah.
Okay, and what are these items? How do you get them, and what are they for? Probably power-ups of some sort?
The items, we have a number of different items. Each character will begin the game with 1 random item, so just to give some variability. And the items are. If you look at this item, the items will usually give you an extra icon. All items have a use effect and a deplete effect. The use effect can be used multiple times during the game. In this case of the perfume, you take a little perfume. You could also empty the whole bottle, and then the bottle will be gone, but you'll get a lot more charm. You'll be very, very charming for those 2 hours. And the items may also have special abilities, and that's an important part of the game, giving you rerolls for the final encounter. So if you combine these items in the correct way, you can build very powerful characters that have a very good chance of beating the end game.
So how do we beat the end game?
The end game, the very final thing, what we call a final showdown, is 1 big roll-off. You simply need to roll a pool of dice and get a number of successes. And that number of successes depends on how high the dread track has climbed, and the number of dice you roll depends on how well you've done. So, but you can enter the end game with a percentage of winning from anywhere to pretty much 99.9 till 1%.
And what about the personal boards, the clocks that we have here, and the figure tokens?
Yeah. This is this is almost the backbone of the game, the core of the game. This is the programming part that happens here. We have all these locations out here. We have 4 areas in the city. We have the north, the east, the south, and the west. And in each area you'll see 6 locations numbered 1 through 6. And in order to send your characters to those locations, you'll be using your action clock and these action tokens. Each character will have 12 tokens, 2 of each number, and on the back of each token you'll find an arrow. And you will use the arrows to travel around the city. So if you want to go to the north, you take an arrow and have it point to the north according to your little compass here. Okay. It doesn't matter where you sit around the table or how this is facing or where you're moving from in the city. So it's really easy. If you want to go to the north, you just point the arrow to the north, and obviously if you want to go to the south, you point it to the south, and so forth. And once you're in an area, you can investigate the different numbered locations simply by placing these tokens. For example, if I want to go to location 3 and then 2 up north, I place my clock like this. Okay. And the tricky part is if I want to do the investigation with your character, we have to coordinate.
Okay.
So we have to be there at the same time, and we can't be playing the game together. So we might want to do that, but at the second time, for the second investigation, I want to be working with Snore or someone else. So it's really crucial that we investigate, stay pretty calm, and and communicate together.
Okay.
So everybody's know what everybody's doing. And to help you with that, I just want to show you have some tokens here to indicate to your team that okay, we have dealt with this. And for advanced players, you can even indicate how you're going to deal with that card. Are we going to use confidence cards? Are we going to use an item to take care of it? So by leaving these colors, you indicate to your team, okay, and to yourself, this is how we're going to deal with that card, and we got it covered.
Okay. And that happens when the time is limited, right?
Yes, that happens when the time is limited. So in like any programming game, like Europa Rally or Space Alert, or you program what's going to happen, and you cross your fingers and hope that you did well. And then when the programming is over, it's hands off this clock, and whatever is in here will dictate how the story unfolds.
Okay.
But unlike a game like, for example, Space Alert, where programming is 100%. Tied up to this or locked here, you get to make choices in the game. So it's a little more forgiving, you might say, because you have choices to make. I'm going to spend my item here? Are we going to pull some cards out of the confidence deck, or what are we going to do? So you have some options when you play through the story, and of course you have the storytelling element as well. So it feels a little different. It's more like if you imagine Arkham Horror meets Space Alert. So.
Okay, and so you told us that there were 2 stories, right?
No, we have 4 stories in the game.
Oh.
We have the introduction story, which is a 1-chapter story, which means that you'll be doing this one time. You'll be doing 24 hours of planning.
Yeah.
You'll play through those actions, and you'll have an end game. That's the introduction story. But a full story will have 24 hours of planning. You play through the story, then you reset the board, throw in more vicious cards, your items carry over, your conditions carry over, and then you play through a second chapter. And then after the second chapter, you got the end game. And we have 3 of those full stories, and they are all linked together in an overarching storyline. Okay. And we really hope that you will not play the second story before. You can play with the same people, but don't play the second story before you actually beat the first one, because if you beat the story, you get to listen to the victory track on the app, and or you can read it from the story guide. But it's just a lot more fun that you feel you beat the story, okay, that's what happened, and then you're ready to play the second story.
So there is a companion app that's on the stores, right?
There is a companion app that is out now on Google Play, and hopefully will be out soon on iOS. It's going through that approval system, and it's what it is. It's essentially a timer. We'll take a look at it here. It's a timer but it also acts as a little storytelling device. So it will read the story for you, because when you set up a story, you'll have a little story to read, and then you hear Big Ben go dong, and then you have 12 minutes to play the game. You could also, of course, just read the story and start a timer, a normal timer. But it's just more thematic because it plays ambient sounds, and you hear London coming to life. The rain starting there, a dog barking or something. So
okay.
To keep you in the mood.
What gave you the idea of London Dread? Was it the mechanics or the setting? The Gothic brooding setting of Victorian London?
A bit of everything, I guess. I mean, I'm a big co-op gamer, and I like co-op games, and I like really the social aspect of gaming. So when we set out, we wanted to create a fully cooperative experience, and personally, like I mentioned, Space Alert is one of my one of the lighthouses. So I think that that game really opened my eyes to a way of doing cooperative games, and with the world is what that's what I do with Snore. We're both really into storytelling and characters and character immersion. So we wanted a very rich and thematic world, and I hope you can tell that from all the illustrations. I think we have 200 illustrations in the game or something. So together we created the story and created the world and the characters, and that's been a big part of it, and a big also a starting point. And then combining that with a truly cooperative game is what has been the vision from the very onset, or from the very beginning. In a way, you can say that all the decisions have a narrative or story element in them. We want the mechanics to reflect the story and the world and the vision, rather than the other way around. But of course, also working with Grey Fox, they've done a great job developing the game. Sometimes, I mean, it's a give and take, and I think every design process is like that. But our gut is always telling us, to go with the story and go with the characters, and have the mechanics reflect that. And sometimes you just realize, okay. An example, for example, these tokens right here. You see, they have Arab numbers.
Yeah.
In the beginning, we had Roman numerals. The problem with Roman numerals is that when you play the game 4 and 6, they can look alike to some people, and if you mess up your planning because of that, that's where the theme, is killing the gameplay. So we changed that. I think that was a good decision. Does it hurt a little bit? Yes, it does, but this is the right decision, I'm pretty sure. So that's just one example, and I could give you 1,000 other examples like that.
Well, it's the development of a game. Well, thank you, Asger, for that overview. That was very efficient and complete.
Thank you very much.
So, bye-bye, and see you on Nudevox.
Bye.
INDIANA, that's Indiana. Ballin' like Reggie Miller, that's Indiana.